One of the things that we want to become aware of is the effect that belief systems have upon your body. And one of the best ways to actualize this concept is when you sit down, is to take your consciousness through your entire body and pay attention to what is there. You're going to find tensions that you don't normally recognize. Tensions get to a point, it's like, I don't know if you've seen any of the old Western movies. The stagecoach is going along and it looks like the wheels are reversing. It's that same kind of sensation in your body with tensions. You'll get to a point and you'll start to relax it, but it seems like it wants to go the opposite way. It's those kinds of points that you have to become familiar with in your body. It's these kinds of things that will lead to a lot of diseases. It's these things that leads to the trapping of toxins, the lack of energy flows, that whole number. So it's very important that we learn how to identify those things. We talked in the past about the idea structure itself, and we said that it is a part of a gestalt, a part of a tension that exists within your body. So once you get past the words, we have to then get past the activity or the action within the muscle, within the body itself. But you're also going to find a kind of tension that exists along your spine that will affect other areas of your body, not just where the tension is. If you will pay very close attention to the base of your skull. The base of your skull will affect your sinuses, will affect your ears, will affect all these kinds of things. So it's not just the point of tension, but what that tension actually affects. So you get to learn a lot more, or a lot more in detail about your body. Just be more aware. Spend much more time with yourself. Now here's the hard part, or the tricky part, is spending time with yourself in relationship to the outside world. You must always remember that it is not the outside world, it is your response to that world. This is what you have to straighten out. This is what you have to do in here. You have to find out. See, if we don't, what we end up doing is running from ourselves by trying to deal so much with the outside world, and there's very little that we can do about that outside world. It's very little that we can do about the behaviors of others. There's very little that we can do about certain circumstances under those conditions. We can, in fact, affect the outside world from the inside. The first step, though, you have to deal with the inside first, always first, until everything is cleared out. It's about peace, and you cannot establish peace within yourself by dealing with it. You have to establish peace within yourself by dealing with you. Once you have a clear energy flow, whatever your desire to be, do, whatever, is now, let us say, the skids have been greased. It's a little easier to achieve it. We go back and think about what we've talked about in terms of reality and the creation of reality. It depends upon the amount of energy flow and the direction or focus, the focus of the energy directed toward a certain end result that makes reality happen, that literally knits the fiber of reality, that really brings it into fruition or into existence. All of the electromagnetic, quote, energies respond in kind to what you project. So in order for you to project it clearly and cleanly, this has to be the first order of business. Otherwise, it will be knitted with all of your biases, all of your expectations, your, quote, negative, not toward the goal expectations. So it's very important that we do this first, that we become aware on more and more subtle levels as to what our belief systems are. And we do have these central or core beliefs around which other things, other satellite beliefs operate. Many of those core beliefs or central beliefs are very hard to identify because they have become this energy that no longer has a word but has a reaction. When we talk about emotions and we talk about how emotion is thought riding on feeling, once you've been doing this thing long enough and the thought, you say, oh wow, yeah, I've got a detachment from the thought, but why am I still reacting in the same way I do? It's because of the belief has become a solidified energy within your body, or a ball of tension, more or less. This is why when your body will go like that, it's like something comes loose and it flutters and you relax. That's because that energy has released and moved, and you can actually feel and experience the movement of the energy. Most often we will find this energy released in terms of tears, laughter, in the beginning. Then sometime later on, it's just a different kind of really nice, cozy little sensation that you experience that just feels good because it's now moving freely. But it is important to understand that the first order of business is always you. It's not the environment. It's how you handle it. There's a reason. That reason is the consciousness of mankind. See, every individual who entertains biased thoughts is just as responsible for the conditions of the earth as those who express thoughts that are so biased that are just out in left field somewhere, that are just ridiculous. See, each of us is responsible for that timber of the earth, that fiber. So we will say generally they, them. But what we have to understand is our input into that whole thing, because it is this whole thing that affects the behavior. And no person is free of it until they free themselves of the catches and the hooks that exist within themselves. Some of us are finding out that this is a very difficult task. We're beginning to understand that. We're beginning to understand that, whoa, you mean this is an every minute thing, every moment thing? Yes, it is. And that's what makes it difficult, because we get involved in what we think. And when we get involved with what we think, we have lost track of what we're doing. When we lose track of what we're doing, that impact upon what we're doing is felt and seen. Now, we may not we probably don't want to acknowledge it at that time that it's happening, but we must. We don't want to acknowledge it because now we've gotten into the idea and let this alone, when it is this that is going to project, and it is this that is going to activate those electromagnetic energies that are responsible for reality. It is this, because it is your intention. You see, you can say whatever you want to say. You can say anything. It is not so much the words that you use, but the intention, the energy that accompanies the words that affects this. You see, the word is just a word. It doesn't, it's a sound. I can say, go to hell. Okay. It's just a sound. It carries the vibrational pitch of the feeling. So it's not what you say that affects the fiber of the universe, but the feeling, the energy with which you say it, that makes the difference. The energy comes from that core. I've been many places and seen a lot of spiritual people who all are kind of like drifting on this fluff. And drifting on that fluff is not a reality. What they're saying is, I am behaving this way, but underneath, you really feel it. I got on the bus yesterday, and I should have suspected something when I got on the bus, and it was jam-packed, but there was this seat next to this person.
Oh, no.
I thought, oh, and not only was there a seat, but there was this pocket of empty space. I sat down, and I noticed, I thought the guy was talking to someone else. But he wasn't. He was just talking. And he was talking about bitches. Okay. He's saying, all the bitches of the world, they want to do a man's job. And that's just not right. They want to think that they're as good as men. And then he said something absolutely profound. He said, if they take all the jobs, what's a man to do? Now, he wasn't talking about bitches. He was afraid. He had no self-value. And then he got to the niggers. Why, in certain countries in the world, we hang them. And if it was left up to me and my brothers of the KKK, we would hang them. Yeah. And then I looked at him, and I saw behind his shades 2 massive black eyes. And I looked at his nose, and it was huge and swollen and red. And I thought, oh, okay. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and he stopped talking, and we rode on. It wasn't what he was saying. The timbre of what he was saying revealed the man. He was in pain. He was scared to death. Now, what do? Do you attack a man like that? No. Only if he attacks you. You understand what he's saying. How do you understand? Because you have untied your own knots. And you understand that it is not what is said. It is how you say it. With what energy. This gives you the meaning. The words are only words. They're only sounds. They set up vibration, yes. But the vibration that they set up, the vibration that is meaningful, the vibration that strikes the bodies of those around them, is the vibration of meaning, of emotion, of feeling. That's what brings the real message. If we talk about the atoms and their movement, their vibration, their natural vibration is a result of the natural vibration of these very, very tiny particles that exist, that is the fabric. If all is well, then they vibrate, let's say, from here to here. That's the vibrational frequency. That's the timbre. Now, as you tighten up, that's the timbre. What you understand about this is natural, this range. But as you tighten it, what happens is you have what is called a black hole in space, right? Well, what the black hole is that you have all of the space taken out of the structure. All right? So you can have something the size of the sun reduced to the size of a quarter. Okay? Because it will come down to that small because it has all this space in it. The amount of matter is very small. So what happens is it has the same gravitational pull as it does when it's huge. But it's so massive and so the pull is so strong, not even light can escape it. Now what happens is it keeps sucking stuff in until it builds up such an incredible force from the lack of movement of the atoms and molecules, it all suddenly explodes again and becomes a sun. Well, the same thing happens to your body, okay? Except when it explodes, it's kind of different, you know. I don't mean it literally explodes. I mean things explode, but they tear down your nervous system, your immune system, these kinds of things, because you are limiting the natural movement. Sometimes, those of you who do the Chit form or do Qigong, sometimes you're right in the middle of it and you just explode and this laughter just comes out, just explodes out of you. Okay, well that's what happens. All of a sudden, those areas of tension go, they go to their natural place and it's like, whoa! And for no reason at all, you find yourself exploding in laughter. That's because they are going back to their original place. That's because when you're doing your qigong or your chit form, basically the same thing. Would you mind? What you are doing is letting go, and you are mimicking the movements of the earth and the planets. So that brings you back in line. The circular movements. You do it slowly for a couple of reasons. One is that it makes you more aware of your surroundings, of the electromagnetic field in which you live. The other is, as a body moves through space, it appears to be going very slow. So you are recapturing, re-reminding your body one more sugar of its naturalness, its natural being. Your eyes are, quote, to the horizon. Okay. And once you get into that fixed position, you let go. And you let go, and you begin to feel it. That is the result of having let go of the central beliefs. The Chinese will say, head to the heavens, feet to the earth, man suspended between. Okay? You are very light, very out of touch with the other conditions that exist around you. So in grounding, it brings you back. It brings that head back from the heavens to the earth. All right. So by pushing that energy down, okay. But what happens is you have created a circle. Okay. It's interesting. Those of you who do qigong, those of you who do the chit form, you're doing basically the same thing except a different interpretation by a different group of people. All right. And it's amazing how it all works. It's amazing. You know, you can do qigong, you can do yoga. If you do it correctly, everything all works. All right. But it's different. So, all I'm saying is you got different movements. Now, there are certain exercises where you bring the energy from the earth up your body, and at the same time, you bring energy from the sky down your body. So you create this, like this flow. You can actually feel the energy coming from the earth as being hot and warm, and the energy from here as being cold. But as they pass each other, there's this incredible circuit that's created that makes your teeth laugh. Or your eyebrows. You know, you say, well, how can you do that? It really does when you're in it. Okay? So, what you're doing is completing a circuit. The point of what I'm saying is that much of what you are doing depends upon your belief and your focus. So, when you do this, okay, you ground, but it's a symbolic grounding. Okay? Your body responds to physical symbols. If you were about to do something, no matter what language I spoke to you, if I did this, you would do what? Stop. You see what I'm saying? So your body responds to these biomechanical symbols. A lot of what happens Well, let's put it this way. It doesn't really matter as long as you believe in what you're doing. So whether it really does that or not, or whether it does that to the earth, or whether it does that out here, doesn't really matter. What matters is you've sent your body a signal, and it returns to its natural function as a member or as a part of this sea of fiber. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never really been able to piece the whole thing together.
You won't. People can give you systems and stuff like that. The Chinese have made, and the Indians have made great systems of this whole thing. I don't know. I found that when I became natural, it just did what it did. Okay. And that's okay. You'll find in some forms of Tai Chi, when people want to become martial with that you get into compression and these kinds of things, get the explosion off of them and all kinds of stuff like that. Well, I don't know. That's a use. Most of what this stuff is here for is use. Just use. And you develop ways of using it for whatever. There are many different ways. There are internal ways in which to use it. There are external ways in which to use it. You know, you can devise machines. You can devise things like that. You can devise methods to do certain things within your body. But one of the things that you must always understand about this universe is that it's what you believe. It is what you believe. The timber, the energy, the feeling with which you do. That makes the difference. Even in death. When you die, you find what you believe. Now, what you believe may be very weird. Well, that's called justice. You believe in hell and you believe you're a hellacious person, then you find hell. If you believe in Jesus, when you die, you find Jesus. If you believe in Muhammad, when you die, you will find Muhammad. Until you wake up and realize your own nature. So it's all about what you believe. That's the bottom line to any of it. That's why you have to really understand what you believe. And really that word is not a good word. It's kind of what you habitually do more than what you believe. Because I don't know if any of us really believe some of the crap that we do. I don't know that we really believe it. We just do it. Because it's easy to do. It's the easiest thing. Well, it's just best for us as individuals and for us as humankind to be clear, to see and to know that which is. It takes objectivity. And as long as we carry these things, we can't be objective about what is there. We can't be objective about the signals that we receive. All of this is electromagnetic. The whole thing. You are electromagnetic. Life is electromagnetic. I've made this statement before. anything that is alive is moving. If it's not alive, it's not moving. It doesn't exist. The mere fact of initial movement creates electromagnetic energy. So the whole basis is about electromagnetic energy. You are an electromagnetic energy. You think that you exist within your head, but what you do is you take this energy, this thought, and make it into you. Into the persona you, or into the illusion you. But it's all new all the time. It comes in and you have this kind of a assembly line. The energy comes in, stamp, 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 me, me, me. It kind of works like that. And until you undo the mechanism, it comes in as you, so you don't have to stamp it. It's just what it is. When you give up these gestalts and all these energy, these non-conducive energy patterns, that is, non-conducive to who you want to be, but certainly conducive to who you thought you were. If that makes any sense to you. Yeah. So the whole idea is to let go of that, because this is what you are anyway. They say breath is important, that you literally breathe in who you are. Well, okay, that's true too. You cannot help but breathe in who you are, but at the same time, who you are passes right through you anyway, as a part of the, quote, radiation. It passes right through your physical being. That's why you have all this space in you and creates all this stuff. And this is just about the example of the physical, quote, physical universe. Now, when you get beyond this bubble, and it is a bubble of consciousness, or a bubble of activity that moves through what you would call God. Now, once you pass through this bubble, talking about that's absurd. I mean, there's just nothing to say about that. You just have to pass through that and go. That's about that. Yeah, forever. But that's the whole idea, that you have to learn that whatever you carry in your head is just your belief about the world. All of it. And that's a humbling experience. That's an absolutely humbling experience. That brings you right down to the basics of everything, that which is God. God is what it is. Man is on such an ego trip that he's in his own way above God. It is like, let's put it this way. Societies began to develop in the world. We sought to be better than we were. We sought to eat with utensils. And not only did we seek to eat with utensils, but we sought to place them in certain places and eat with certain ones first, and this, in order to separate ourselves from the animals. Well, see, this is a false uplifting. you'll find those same people will sit around a dinner table and discuss the annihilation of a whole group of people somewhere else for whatever reason. See, so this is a false elevation. It is all superficial and has nothing to do with anything. You've got the greatest eating utensil in the world. You know? It's called a hand. And that's fine. Now, that doesn't mean that we should not eat with utensil. That doesn't mean all that. It's just the importance that we've placed on it. Okay. In order to come to God, we have to come away from those illusions of what it is that we are. And that requires a great humbling. And that great humbling is, you're wrong, man. You're just wrong. Even when you're right, you're wrong.
Because the base from which it comes from.
Right, right. The base from which you come. It is about returning. There are all these statements by various and sundry religions about returning to God. Well, that is a return to self. That's all that is. Returning to that which is just what you are. And just goodness is naturally a part of what you are. We talk about there's a small, still voice back there. There's no small, still voice. That's just what you are. That tells you right from wrong. That's just what you are, and the other stuff is just so loud that what that makes that appear to be small and still. Man in his basic nature is, quote, good, or exhibits all the characteristics that we cherish. They're just naturally a part of your goodness, godness. Okay? It's a natural part of that. We get into the battle between that and this. I don't feel good about myself, therefore I must do blah, blah, blah. Little voice is saying, help me, don't do that. Ah, to hell with that. I got mine, I'm happy. No. See, just at our base, this is what it is. We're filled with godliness or goodliness or whatever all the words are that we choose to use. But it is getting behind those things and letting that vibrate at its natural frequency. And when it does, wow, you remember when you were a little kid? You get that feeling in here just for the hell of it and just laugh and have a sunshine would make you happy. You know, just, that's because you were vibrating at a natural frequency. The body is. So it is to return to that, even in your greatest pain. You know, if you maintain that, even when you are in tremendous pain, it's all okay. It is when you shut that out that there is hopelessness. Because all of it has to start from your basic nature. And we can say all the things that are in the world today are terrible things. Kind of. But they are necessary things. If you understand what growth is, if you understand how we must come from the lowest to the highest, there's no problem. that you can only come from the lowest to the highest, then you understand that what is happening in the world is necessary. You don't have to like it. You have to understand it. You have to understand that there are children in this world that are so abused. What you can do in a moment or what you can do in a lifetime is not going to matter. But what you also have to understand into the abuse that went into the abuse. We live in a world that is abusive. We don't understand that being too lenient is abusive. We don't understand that. We don't understand that being too forceful is abusive. T-O-O. T-O-O. And two is the operative word. We have to find balances. That's what it's about. It's about balances. So, who are we going to execute? If we have a child and someone has abused that child, now who do we execute? We execute the grandparents? We execute the parents of the grandparents? We execute. Then who are we? Then we're back to concentration camps and gas. See, we're back to helping create that atmosphere. Because you're not alone. No person stands separate and apart from any other person. But only when you stand separate and apart will you be able to understand that no one stands separate and apart. But the first thing you have to do is stand separate by being a scientist. That is, looking for that which is true, instead of perpetuating that which we have always perpetuated. People do not look for the truth. We look to substantiate what we believe because we don't want to feel alone. We look to do this. Come share my belief with me. No, I don't think so. Let us come and share the truth together. If we share the truth, we will stand together. Simply because we stand for that which is true. That means you will move further away from the masses. And it must be so because what you will find, you will not be able to talk because almost everything that is said is going to be is going to be wrong. Okay? Everything they say, because they're not coming from a base of understanding. All right? So, you can't just say, no, 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 no. You're constantly doing this the whole time you're in it. And finally, even when you say it, they aren't listening. They're listening to you. They're listening to their beliefs. They are habitually doing what they do. Okay. Then, to what end are you doing what you do? To what end are you debating with them? So, it automatically moves you out of that social realm. It focuses you not on the social aspects of life, getting along, because you're perfectly willing to get along. I'm perfectly willing to get along. I won't bother you, bother anybody. But they don't know where the line is. They come across that line. They come across over here. Now we've got a problem. So what do you do? Good morning. Such a wonderful day, isn't it? It's so good to see you. I gotta go now. Oh, what a pleasant man. So high and so spiritual. No. You only have time to begin to delve into the great mysteries. And then you find out, because of all that electromagnetic mass, we are not alone. We are not separate. Oh. Be quiet. Let that affect the electromagnetic soup. Let that be the effort in change. Let that be it. But if you react in the same way they react, whoever they may be, you are contributing to something else in that electromagnetic soup. So you come apart to understand that you are not apart, that you are all one and the same. So let's hang them in the gas chamber. Well, yeah, that's what it was, yeah. Well, that makes you just like them in terms of what you're putting upon the fabric of the universe. You see, it is justice. Justice gives you exactly what you deserve. Now, see, if when I say that, if you get this feeling, well, so-and-so happened to me and I don't deserve that. Yes, you do. Because it is saying to you, investigate. Investigate. If it all means nothing, all of this means nothing, then it can mean anything I want it to mean, can't it? If you have a clean board, you may write upon that board anything you desire. See, we will think it means nothing. Well, I won't do anything. That's not what it means. It means choose. Choose what you create. Choose is what it means. But then you must understand the whole point of this having free will is to understand what you have chosen. If you don't understand what you have chosen, if you have chosen the, quote, spiritual path, then you can't be stepping off into the non-spiritual path because you keep doing this. And then you have this quilt work with all these little bubbles in it, you know. It's like if you were creating steel and kept pumping air into it. This molten stuff, and you're pumping air in there, and then because it's brittle and breaks and there are all these air pockets, you get real ticked off. Well, that don't pump air pockets in there. It will solidify, solid, firm, boom, there's what you want. But you have to understand that it not meaning anything simply says it will take on the coloration that you put on it. And that's what all this little stuff does. Takes on the coloration of what we put on it. Man, you can't see unless you understand, then you can't do it right. Because every time you get knocked down, you're whatever, and all this stuff comes up inside of you, and you start acting on it instead of understanding it, letting it flow, and taking that energy and saying, this is what I'm going to do. Now you're affecting it in a different way, in a positive manner rather than a negative manner. So in order to you have to understand these little gestalts, these habits that we have, in order to go right to the heart of the matter. Let's look at a basic belief system in most human beings that leads to our downfall. See, when we were young, we agreed, all right, I'm going to behave this way because you make me do it. I'm not going to understand why. Because as soon as I get big enough, I'm going to do what I want to do. Think about it. You can do what you want to do, but you have to realize that there are laws that you have to live within. Because to deny those laws is to deny your existence. Whether we like to believe it or not, there really are rules. There really are. So we say, well, I'm going to think this way for a little while, I'll do this for a little while, but then I'm just going to. Excellent. There's a time to do that. There's a time to go nuts, to push the rules, to push the envelope. But then there's a time to wake up and say, oh, I'm pushing the envelope and the envelope pushes back. That old song, I fought the law and the law won. Yes, the law will win. And he said, but I'm miserable. Well, now's the time you understand there's certain laws you can't push. It makes you humble. It makes you stop trying to do something you can't do. It makes you stop trying to make those who do not wish to be whole, whole. What are you there for? You are there to provide possibilities. That's what you're there for. You're not going to change anyone. People change because they want to change, or they see the need to change. So here you are. Well, I'm brilliant. And they don't do it. Then what? You get frustrated. Get frustrated, you get angry. There. Who's angry? Who's suffering now? Oh, great wise one. Right. Oh, brilliant one. Well, everybody's plan would work if everybody else did what they were supposed to do. It just doesn't work that way. Of course. I have the solution. I do. Now, if everybody would just think like this, and I really do have the solution. If everybody would just think like this, but they're not. So the solution is for you. The solution is for you. Now, peace comes. into the fiber of the world, then peace is woven. And remember, those little things don't just stop at you, they go. And somewhere in the midst of all the primordial mass in somebody's head, oh well. But you have affected them. You have affected them indirectly. I do believe in the intelligence of man. That's why I do what I do. I believe in the intelligence of man, even though everything sometimes tells me that's not true. Excuse me. I must. Because I am intelligent. Therefore, all men are intelligent. All men. If I separate myself from that, then I have separated myself from God, and I cannot do that. All men are intelligent. But do we all use it? That's up to them. You must affect it as you can affect it. Things knock you down so that you can rise. Every time something knocks you down, you rise higher. What you have to do is just keep getting up. Keep getting up, and it keeps making more and more sense. You're only knocked down because there's something telling you, okay, that was good for then. It ain't good for now. Now has changed. Things have now changed. It ain't good anymore. Just because the ham that you ate 3 days ago was good then, it's been sitting on the table for 3 days, you can't eat it today. You can. And then you say, I don't feel well. That doesn't mean don't eat ham. It just means don't eat ham that's been laying on the table for 3 days. See, you get smarter. You rise. But you must have the patience. If you must have focused yourself in that direction, that which happens to you is not bad. It just lets you know it's time to change the way you are viewing, to change that thing in here. See, often when we get changed, we want to change our physical position.
Yes, not.
Well, it never helps. It never, ever, ever helps. I laugh. I've talked to people and they say, well, you know, I'm going to go to this highly spiritual spot. They don't know that one of the most spiritual spots on the planet is Chicago, Illinois. One of the great vortexes on the planet is right here. Where you gonna go? Well, I'm going to the Himalayas. Well, see ya. You know, cook on yak dung and all that stuff, you know. Bake a potato over it, eat it. Hey, knock yourself out. As for me, hey. Well, anyway. But you see, when we don't know who we are, and we're in here, we don't know where we live. One of the greatest vortexes on the planet. It's right here. Why do you think you have such weird weather? I said, you don't like the weather in Chicago? Wait a minute. It'll change. That's true. You got these, what's a vortex? A swirl. Why do you think you keep swirling? The windy city. Well, the wind doesn't do that without the energy. The wind rides the energy. Tremendous. But, hey. Where you going? Here. To clean this so that you experience it, so that you feel it. So that you feel it. It's going to be very funny, those who survive in California.
I mean, after it falls off and it just gets...
Well, the thing is, it's not going to fall off. That's not the way the plate shifts.
Oh.
It's going to be up by Alaska. That's the way the rotation of the plate is. Boy, all those tans are going to go the way.
Imagine the surfers in that surf ride getting up there. Huh?
Between the icebergs, man. Look, it's about having the experience. That's all it's about. And how do you have the experience objectively? Is by eliminating all these things. Relaxing, learning how to relax. You've got to teach your body how to relax all over again, because it's been habitually doing something. You've got to teach a biomechanical response in your brain to stop doing something that it's doing constantly. That is, getting into what you think instead of understanding that you think, or that thoughts happen, is a better way of saying it. Thoughts happen. We get so caught up in what we think. That's how we get lost. How about just paying attention? How about that? Just paying attention and doing what it takes in that moment, without the expectation of the end result. Because when you start expecting the end result, again, you're not going to see what happens. And then you're going to be angry. You're going to be upset. You're going to be... because you are more involved with what you think than what's going on. You're very involved in being right. I'm smart. No, not so smart now that you're having that stroke. It's that's not real bright, you know. No, cool out. We are not here to right the world outwardly, but to right the world inwardly and affect the consciousness of man. As you do your forms, what do you feel? Wow. Why is it I feel that? Because your movement is attracting electromagnetic energy, or is in touch with that around you. How could that be if there's nothing there? Even if we say, but it's the air. planets do it all the time. And there's no air in space. They sit in a condition we call space and create waves of stuff. It creates, there's a saying, if a tree falls in a forest and there's no one to hear it, does it make a sound? The answer is no. Because sound is defined as it strikes the eardrum. Does it set up a vibration? Yes. In space, it sets up a vibration. Because space is something. Time is something related to space. It really is something. What does a blind person see? Darkness. No. If you are blind, you can't see anything. You have to be able to see darkness. So when you can tell that there is space there. So it is a something. Outside of the bubble that you call time-space is nothing. God. Okay. Now, the wheels are turning. It won't work. You have to experience it. You can't figure it out. Okay? What you deal with is the experience of feeling that and being quiet. That thing that comes, that no thing that becomes something at a certain point on the bubble or within the bubble, depending upon where you are, will reveal itself, and you will understand by being quiet. But you have to get rid of this first, because that won't let you be quiet. Then you will understand. See, getting rid of all this it has nothing to do with that. It just lets you hear what's already there, or lets you experience what's already there. You have the experience of these frequencies. When the more gross frequencies are not dealt with, when I don't get into what I think. I get into that thought and pretend that that thought is everything there is. You can get into a thought. You can. And perceive every possibility off of that thought right in one moment. Just like that. The solution to every problem. But guess what? You did that, not the rest of the world. They don't know. And they look at you and you look just like they do to them. Someone said something to me one day in the airport in New York. And the person, I forget who it was, Ron, Tony, somebody says, they can't talk that way to you. And I'm saying, what? They have no idea. I'm just another person passing through the airport. What do they know? Because I have seen means that I see, not that they see. It's for you. Ask not for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. Huh? So, you want to affect it? Take your whipping. Let it humble you. Look at what has happened. Understand. Begin to repaint your history and your future upon the fabric of time and space. It truly is a fabric. That's why you have to learn how to take that energy and focus it. You don't dwell upon what has happened. You take that energy, you decide where you want to go, you take that energy, you focus that energy, and bam, you do it. It will be okay. It will be okay. Energy plus focus, that is the work that you do, focuses it. You don't get off into, well, this won't and that blah. Some of the most nutty people in this world achieve great things because they put their energy and their focus into what they're doing, nothing more, nothing less, because they believe that it works, it works. In terms of Seth, in terms of physical things. Not in terms of improving themselves as human beings. You have to get on the track. You have to be focused in that in the same way. Your work, everything. Something happens. How am I reacting? Okay, let me focus this now into this. Okay, bang. And you watch the events. Believe me, those things around you are your painting. You are building a tunnel and then walking through the tunnel. A lot of times when you ask for something, you don't really know what it is you're asking for. When you ask to learn more, the first thing that's got to happen is that which you think you already know has got to be smacked down. Pow! Oh, okay. Kind of like, I guess, last night, Bruno had his world expanded. Because I guess Mike Tyson let him see some things he never dreamed of. You have to sometimes get So he said, well, accounting seems to be good. Perhaps teaching is a good profession, you know? Boxing, I don't think so. Mike Tyson. They say he's 5'11". I doubt it. He's more like 5'9". But he takes people who are 6'5". This guy, Bruno, is 6'4" and weighed 27 pounds more. It doesn't matter to Tyson. He fought some guy, 6'7", 270 pounds or 260 pounds. He knocked that guy out like he was no one. Why? This absolute rage, totally focused in one point. The guy says, I'm bigger than you, so. The story Roy Firestone tells. Tyson and the guy are face to face in the ring, and Tyson, as the referee is explaining all this stuff, and Tyson says, I'm kicking your ass. And the guy says, I know.
Let me help.
The power of focusing that much energy success. However you focus it. Now, don't tell me that Mike is a very spiritual person. I don't think you can tell me that that's the focus of Mike's energy. But he is positive plus goal. That he is. His goal is to be absolutely destructive. Absolutely. He's very positive about that. All of his energies go toward that goal. I'm going to destroy it. That's exactly what he does. How dare they approach me with their puny skills? Total focus of the energy toward that which you wish to bring about. Not. Never heard Mike say, maybe I'm going to hurt him. No. No. It's not a maybe. The only time that you saw him distracted, you saw him lose. The point, ladies and gentlemen, is about belief and the fabric of time and space. We've been at this a long time, and sometimes we get bored. Check that too. It doesn't come about as we think it should be coming about, and I think you have to check that. You have to check why it's not coming about. Are you, every moment of your life, living, focusing on what you want to achieve? Or are you focusing in the outside and in the thought about it rather than into the activity of it? Are you doing your technique so that you understand what you're doing? You know that hammer? It's called a hammer because it's got that iron head on this piece of wood. If you don't have that iron head on the piece of wood, it's not a hammer. You could all you like. It doesn't work real well. Know your tool. When you look at it and it's just a piece of wood, you got to find the head and put it on. Now you can drive a nail. Knowing your tool.
This is your tool. Know it well. I'd like to thank you for your time. Boredom is in a person, not in a thing. We have to, again, focus every moment of every day in what you're doing. There's no time to sleep. There's no time to nod off. There's no time to be distracted. If you want it to work, you got to pay the price for it working. You got to pay the price. Thank you again. Namaste.